It's a Sunday morning in October, and you are sitting at your kitchen table, holding a cup of coffee that has gone cold. You did not mean for the coffee to go cold. You poured it 40 minutes ago. You took one sip, and then you opened your laptop, and then you opened the spreadsheet you keep but don't look at as often as you used to, because the number at the bottom doesn't really change in any meaningful way from week to week. You opened it this morning out of habit. Same as every Sunday. The number at the bottom reads $1,020,000. You stare at it. You add it up again, in your head. You don't trust the spreadsheet, the 401k, the brokerage, the savings, the equity in the small condo you bought 4 years ago. You add the numbers. You get the same total, $1,020,000. You set the coffee down. You think about your father. You think about your mother. You think about your grandfather, who is dead, who came to this country with $200 sewn into the lining of his coat in 1971. You think about your grandmother, who died last year, and whose entire estate, after the funeral was paid for, came to $12,000, divided among 3 children. Your family has never had $1 million. Not your grandfather, not your father, not your uncle who went to college, not your aunt who married a doctor, not anyone who shares your last name, going back as far as anyone has bothered to trace it. You are the first. You are 34 years old, and on this Sunday morning in October, with coffee that has gone cold and a spreadsheet you weren't planning to open, you have just become the first millionaire in your family's history. You sit with this for a minute. The minute becomes 10. You don't know what to do with the information. There is no one to call. Your father would not understand the math. Your mother would worry that you were going to lose it. Your friends would either not believe you or would believe you and become slightly weird about it for the next 3 years. Your grandfather is dead. Your grandmother is dead. The people who would have understood what this means, the people who would have cried at this number, are not here to hear it. You are alone with $1 million. This is the part that nobody tells you about being the first. You think the becoming will feel like an arrival. You think there will be some moment, some marker, some person who hands you the certificate and says, "You did it." The line of your family that has been waiting for this for 120 years can finally exhale. You expected, somewhere in the back of your head, that this number would feel like belonging. It doesn't. It feels like solitude. By the end of this video, I'm going to walk you through what actually happens when you're the first one. The part nobody describes. The decisions you don't know you have to make. The relationships that quietly change. The version of yourself that is slowly being written into something your family has never seen before, and the quiet weight of being the only one who knows the script. Let me back up. You did not plan to be the first. When you were 22, the goal was not generational wealth. The goal was to not be poor, to not have the specific feeling you grew up with, which was the feeling of every dollar being accounted for and every account being one bad month from empty. Your goal was a buffer. 3 months of expenses, then 6, then a year. The buffer kept moving because the fear that built it kept moving. You watched your father at 50 work 2 jobs. You watched your mother at 55 eat the same lunch every day for 3 years because it was the cheapest one she could pack. You watched your grandfather, before he died, refuse to turn the heat above 64 degrees in February because heat was a luxury he had never quite given himself permission to enjoy. You decided, somewhere in your 20s, that you were not going to live like that. This was not ambition. This was refusal. You were not chasing wealth. You were running from poverty. There is a difference. And the difference matters, because the people who run from something tend to keep running long after they have escaped what they were running from. You took a job that paid $42,000 a year. You saved $1,500 a month, which was almost half your take-home pay, which everyone in your life thought was insane, including you. You invested it in index funds because someone on the internet told you to, and the math seemed simple enough that even you couldn't get it wrong. You did not stop saving when you got promoted. You did not stop saving when you got married. You did not stop saving when you bought the condo. The condo was the smallest thing your spouse would agree to. You both wanted to keep saving. You had married someone who came from the same kind of family you came from, and they understood, without being told, that the saving was not optional. It was who you were now. For 12 years, every paycheck went out and a percentage of it disappeared into accounts you did not touch. You did not check the accounts often. Checking them was almost beside the point. The saving was not about the number. The saving was about not being your father at 50. You were 30 when you crossed 500,000. You did not celebrate. You felt a small relief. The same way you'd felt at 100,000, the same way you'd felt at 50,000. The relief is always the same shape. It is just the absence of fear, briefly. It does not last long. The fear comes back because the fear is not actually about the number. The fear is the operating system. The number is just one input. You hit 1,000,000 on a Sunday morning in October, and the operating system did not crash. It kept running. It noticed the number. It moved on to the next thing it was worried about. This is the first thing nobody tells you about being the first millionaire in your family. The fear that built the wealth does not turn off when the wealth arrives. You think about telling your parents. You imagine the conversation. You picture yourself sitting on their couch, the same couch they have had since you were 9, in their living room with the same wallpaper they've had since you were 14. You picture telling them that you have $1,000,000. You imagine your mother's face. You imagine your father's face. The faces in your imagination are not the faces of pride. They are the faces of confusion. Your father will say, "That's nice." He will not know what to do with the information. He will not have a frame of reference for what $1,000,000 means. To him, $1,000,000 is what other people have. People in movies. People who own businesses. He has never met a millionaire he was related to, because there have not been any. He will not be able to translate the number into anything that maps onto his experience of you. Your mother will say, "Are you sure?" She will worry that the number is on paper and not real. She will worry that you will lose it. She has watched her own life carefully enough to know that money on paper has a way of evaporating. She will not believe the number is yours until you have spent it on something visible. A house, a car, a degree for your child. To her, money that is not in a thing is money that is one bad week from being gone. Neither of them will understand what the number means to you. Neither of them will have the language for it. They will love you exactly the same. Their love did not require $1,000,000. Their love is not affected by it. But they will not, because they cannot, share this moment with you. The moment is happening in a room they have never been in. You decide, after thinking about it for an hour, that you are not going to tell them. You decide this without making the decision consciously. You just realize, sitting at the kitchen table with the cold coffee, that the conversation you imagined is not a conversation you actually want to have. The conversation would not give you what you wanted from it. The thing you wanted was someone to share it with. Telling your parents would not be sharing. It would be reporting. You close the laptop. The number is still there, under the laptop. The number is still there in the world. The number has not been witnessed. You are the only person who knows. This is the second thing nobody tells you about being the first millionaire in your family. There is no one in the family qualified to witness it. You go for a walk. You walk through your neighborhood, which is not a wealthy neighborhood, but is nicer than the neighborhood your father lives in, which is nicer than the neighborhood your grandfather lived in. The progression is real. Each generation moved up. You are continuing the progression, just at a steeper slope. You think about your grandfather as you walk. You did not know him well. He died when you were 11. The things you remember are small. The smell of the soap he used. The way he held a coffee cup with both hands, as if the cup were warm and his hands were always slightly cold. The single time he showed you the inside of his wallet, which had $4 in it, and a photograph of your grandmother from before they were married, and you did not understand, at 11, why he kept the photograph in a place where he would touch it every day. You understand now. He carried her with him. He carried the version of her that he had loved most, in a place his hand would brush against 20 times a day. She was not just his wife. She was the proof of who he was, on the days he could not remember. He kept the proof in his pocket. You think about what your grandfather would have done with $1,000,000. The thought stops you on the sidewalk. You stand there for a moment. You realize you cannot picture it. You cannot picture your grandfather with $1,000,000. He did not have the imagination for it. Not because he was stupid, because he was alive in a different country at a different time, and the imagination of $1,000,000 was a luxury he had not been given the resources to develop. He could imagine a paid-off house. He could imagine never working another day. He could imagine his children going to college. These were the limits of his imagination, because these were the things he had words for. You have words your grandfather did not have. You have, in your head, a category of options that includes things he could not have named. Diversified portfolios, tax-advantaged accounts, asset allocation, generational planning. These are not better words than his. They are just different words. They describe a world he did not live in, that you are now standing inside, alone, holding $1,000,000 he could not have pictured. You start walking again. You realize, slowly, as you walk, that the loneliness you felt at the kitchen table was not actually loneliness. It was something else. It was the feeling of having vocabulary your family does not share. The feeling of having moved into a country none of them speak the language of. You can still go home. You can still visit. But you have been issued a different passport, and the passport cannot be returned. This is the third thing nobody tells you about being the first millionaire in your family. The cost of the becoming is the partial loss of the language you grew up speaking. You come home from the walk and you sit on the couch. You think about your future children, who do not exist yet. You think about what they will inherit if you continue the pattern, if you do not break it. You think about what it would mean to be the second millionaire in your family. The third, you realize that you are no longer just thinking about yourself. This is the fourth thing nobody tells you. The moment you become the first, you stop being a person who is just doing it for yourself. You become the start of something. You become, whether you wanted to or not, the founder of a small dynasty that does not exist yet, that may never exist, that depends entirely on what you do in the next 30 years, and on what your children do in the 30 years after that, and on what their children do in the 30 years after that. You did not sign up for this. The math does not care what you signed up for. If you spend the $1 million now, your children will inherit a normal middle-class start. If you grow it carefully for 30 years, your children will inherit a real foundation. If you teach your children what you learned, their children will inherit a culture, not just money. The culture is the thing that compounds across generations. The money is just the vehicle. The culture is the cargo. You sit on the couch and you realize that the question is no longer how much money should you have. The question is what kind of grandparent do you want to be? This is a question your grandfather did not get to ask. Not because he didn't love you. He loved you very much. Because the question requires a starting point that he did not have. He was busy not freezing in February. He was busy keeping the lights on. The question of what kind of grandparent he wanted to be was a question about kindness, presence, the small daily things he could give. It was not a question about resources. He did not have resources to allocate. You do. You have, sitting in accounts you barely think about, the resources to make decisions your grandfather did not have the option to make. You can fund education for grandchildren who do not exist. You can structure trusts that will protect them from their own future bad decisions. You can write rules that will outlast you. You can become, if you want to, the kind of person who thinks in 50-year increments. Your grandfather did not have this option. Your grandfather is the one who made it possible for you to have it. The work he did, the heat he did not turn on, the lunch he did not eat, the soap he could afford, those were the foundation of the thing you are now standing on. The $1 million in your accounts was paid for, partially, by the 1,000 small refusals of a man you barely remember. You owe him something. The something is not money. He is dead. He cannot use money. The something is continuation. The something is being the kind of person who builds on what he started, even though he never told you he was starting it, even though he died before he knew he was the first link in a chain. He was the first to leave the country. You are the first to cross $1 million. The chain is 2 links long. It might never be 3. It might be 12. The decision is yours. In a way, it was not his, because you have time and resources he did not have. The decision is also a weight he did not carry, because he did not know, at the end of his life, that anyone would carry it for him. You pour yourself another coffee. You drink it, this time, while it is still warm. You sit on the couch, and you let the morning come into the apartment. You think about what to do. Here is the part nobody on YouTube will tell you, the part the financial influencers leave out because it does not fit into a thumbnail. Being the first millionaire in your family is not a victory. It is a transition. The version of you that grew up in a family that had nothing is not the same version of you that lives now with $1 million. The two versions of you have different defaults. The old version saves out of fear. The new version has to learn to save out of strategy. The old version flinches at restaurant bills. The new version has to decide, deliberately, what it is okay to spend money on. The old version assumes scarcity. The new version has to learn, slowly and with discomfort, that some things are now actually abundant. This transition is hard. Nobody warned you it would be hard. You assumed that money would feel like the absence of the problem you grew up with. It is not the absence. It is a different problem. The new problem is figuring out who you are now that you are not the person you used to be. Your friends from high school will sense the transition before you tell them. They will not call you out on it. They will just slowly stop inviting you to certain things. The things they don't invite you to will be the things they think you would say no to, or the things they think you would judge them for. They will be wrong about both. You would still come. You would not judge. But the perception is enough. The friendship will become smaller, gradually, without anyone deciding to make it smaller. Your spouse will know. If you have a good spouse, they will know in a way that is mostly fine, because they have been in the room while you became this. If you have a less good spouse, they will know in a way that is poisonous, because the wealth will feel like a weapon they don't know how to disarm. Your children, when they exist, will not know. They will grow up assuming the resources are normal. They will not have the operating system you have. The operating system was the gift you cannot give them. They will need a different one, and you will have to invent it for them, because you did not have one to inherit. Your parents will love you exactly the same. Your grandparents would have been proud of you in a way that does not translate into any specific words you can hold. Your grandchildren, if you make the right choices, will not need to be the first. That last sentence is the one that matters. That last sentence is what the million is actually for. It is now Sunday afternoon. The light has changed. The coffee in your cup is, again, going cold, but you don't mind because you have been thinking, and the thinking is more important than the coffee. You open your laptop again. You look at the spreadsheet. The number is still there. $1,020,000. You do something you have never done before. You open a new document. You title it something simple. You start writing. Not the rules of a trust, not the structure of an estate plan. Those will come later. Something smaller. Something more personal. You start writing what you wish you could tell your grandfather. You write about the country he came to. The country it became while he was here. The country it has become since he died. You write about the $4 in his wallet, and the photograph of your grandmother, and the way he held the coffee cup with both hands. You write about the heat at 64 degrees, and the lunch your mother ate for 3 years. You write about the weight of being the one who left the village, and the weight of being the grandson who has now done something the village could not have imagined. You write a letter. You don't know who it's for exactly. Maybe your future children. Maybe your future grandchildren. Maybe just yourself, in 20 years, when you have forgotten what this Sunday felt like. You write for an hour. When you're done, you don't save it anywhere fancy. You email it to yourself with a subject line that says, "For whoever needs this later." You close the laptop. You walk to the window. You look out at the world. You are the first millionaire in your family's history. You did not plan to be. You did not celebrate when you became one. You did not call anyone. You wrote a letter to a dead man and a coffee cup that no longer exists. This is what being the first looks like. Quiet, lonely, heavy with a kind of responsibility nobody warned you about. The responsibility of being a link in a chain that did not exist before you, that may not exist after you, that exists right now only because you decided, somewhere in your 20s, that you were not going to live the way your father lived. The decision was small at the time. The decision was the whole thing. Somewhere right now, a 24-year-old is opening their first brokerage account. They don't know yet that the $400 they're about to deposit is the beginning of becoming the first one in their family. They will become the first if they let themselves. They will fail to become the first if they stop saving when their friends start spending. They will fail if they buy the car that signals they have arrived. They will fail if they marry someone who does not share the operating system. They will fail if they convince themselves that being the first is unfair to the family that did not become the first. They will succeed if they keep going. Quietly, without anyone noticing, without making a story out of it. For 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, the way you did, until one Sunday morning in October, when they are 34, and they open a spreadsheet they don't usually open, and the number at the bottom is more than anyone in their family has ever had. They will sit alone with it. They will know, the way you know now, that being the first is not the celebration the financial influencers said it would be. It is something quieter. It is the start of something that may or may not last beyond them. It is up to them what happens next. If this video changed how you think about being the first one in your family to do something hard, hit subscribe. Tomorrow we're doing the 7 levels of old money, from one quiet inheritance to a family that owns the town. And the story is about what happens when the chain has been going for so long that nobody in the family remembers the person who started it. See you then.